Before I start my first project, which is going to be creating a movie collection database, there's something I want to talk about, which is called function. Function is a piece of code that does something useful and shortens the code itself. Like in previous example, I had those few lines in which I was creating a movie information. It had title, director, release, genre. Then I added that in this line into my list of movies. So if I were to follow the same logic here, what would I have to do to create another movie and append it to the list? Well, I would have to basically copy those 4 lines. So if I just go for Yank, and I would have to probably now paste it and create a movie number 2 like this with a new title, movie, for example, Avatar, and I would have to change director, James Cameron. Maybe I would have to add information like that, maybe add one more fantasy. And then, let's just say I don't want to remove anything here. And then I would need to add, so I would need to do this. I would need to add this movie number 2 into my list. Well, if I wanted to create another movie, number 3, I would have to repeat this whole process, so the code would be very, very long. Instead, I can actually create a function which does this for me, and I'm going to use that starting tomorrow. But using function, that code is going to be shortened significantly because the function that creates the movie is going to be one piece of code which can be repeated multiple times without adding those movies like I just showed. So let's just open another file. Let's say vim function and create a simple function that illustrates the point. So the function creation is starting with a def keyword, definition, and the name of the function. Let's just say, for the argument's sake, I want to create a function that add 2 numbers. Function name should sort of explain what the function does already in the name, and the function can take argument, doesn't have to, but can take an argument. Since I want to add 2 numbers, I need to send those 2 numbers to the function, thus adding them together and returning the results. So in the function, it doesn't have to be always the case, but in this particular case, I want to send 2 numbers to the function, which will be manipulated, which will be added together. And if the function is supposed to do something, like add 2 numbers together, we need to add those arguments to complete the task. So, for example, AB. These 2 variables will be representing the 2 numbers I'm going to be doing manipulation or adding them together in the function. So if I specify colon here, now I have to have my indentation inside the body of the function. The first thing I should do is to create a doc string, which is the explanation as to what the function does, adding 2 numbers and returning the result. 3 apostrophes or 3 quotes, whichever you want to use, and that is going to be creating a docstring explanation as to what the function actually does. Now, I can create a third, let's say, maybe variable inside, and if this function is supposed to add the 2 numbers together, I'll say A plus B, and the second statement could be return C. Or I can just do return A plus B. But let's see what it does now. So I have 2 spaces here indicating the function is already finished. And how do I call the function? Maybe let's create a variable, results. And calling this function is basically using this name, and what it returns will be stored in the variable result, because the equality sign, remember, means store something into the variable. So now I'm going to say add two numbers. That's the name of the function, and it expects two parameters, number A and number B. Let's say 5 and 3. So what it does now, it calls this function, so goes to the code and represents A with 5 and B with 3. It creates a variable inside C, adds those A plus B together, which should be 8, and returns that C back to the place where the function was called. That, in turn, stores the returned value in a result. So now I can print it, and I should have my result right there. Save my code, and Python 3 function. It returns the number 8. Function does not necessarily need to return anything. It doesn't even have to take parameters at all. So let's see that as well. Let's just say we could have something like that. Function that does, I don't know, maybe greeting. It takes nothing. So in this docstring, I would say the function prints greeting on the screen. It's not gonna return anything. And now, body of the function will have just one statement. Print hello, it is a beautiful day. Just calling function without any parameters will do. The function in this particular line of code is going to be called, and Python says, okay, what's in the function? What do I do with it? I'm printing that thing on a screen and ending. Print the code ends here. That's the last statement. Has nothing to do with the function itself. So this, in this particular situation, the function has no parameters and doesn't really return anything back to the code. It just prints something on a screen, and that's it. Let's run this code. And that's what it is. So tomorrow, I'm going to start building my first project, which is the movie collection database, using Python, and see how far I can go with it and what the database can actually do for me. So this is the last basic tool that is actually necessary or very helpful in creating any program. So with the tool belt we already have, we should be able to create quite a number of useful tools.